Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. God has a way of revealing things that we can't always see with our eyes. He works in ways that we might not understand, but the truth always finds a way to surface. You've been walking in the darkness for too long, caught in a web of lies, manipulation, and deceit. But God is exposing those narcissists in your life, those who have been feeding off your energy, controlling your every move, and using your weaknesses against you. It's time for you to see the truth. Narcissism is a term that has gained significant attention in recent years, particularly in discussions about mental health, relationships, and personal development. It is often misunderstood or misused, but at its core, narcissism is a personality trait characterized by an excessive need for admiration, a lack of empathy, and a sense of entitlement. It is derived from the Greek myth of Narcissus, a character who fell in love with his own reflection, symbolizing the self-absorption that is central to this condition. While many of us may exhibit narcissistic traits at times, true narcissism exists on a spectrum and can manifest as a personality disorder known as narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, where the behaviors are persistent, pervasive, and deeply ingrained in one's character. The impact of narcissism on individuals and their relationships is profound and far-reaching. Narcissists often appear charming, confident, and charismatic at first, which can easily draw people in. They are adept at making others feel special, loved, or valued, but this charm is usually superficial. Beneath the surface, a narcissist is typically driven by an overwhelming need to feel superior and admired, and this need shapes their interactions with others. They view relationships as transactional, expecting others to serve their emotional needs without giving much in return. Empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others, is often absent or severely limited in narcissists, making it difficult for them to form genuine, reciprocal connections. The narcissist worldview is centered around self-importance. They believe they are unique, deserving of special treatment, and often view others as inferior or unworthy of their attention. This belief can lead to a lack of accountability and a tendency to blame others for their problems. Narcissists often struggle with criticism, reacting defensively or even aggressively when their carefully constructed self-image is challenged. In many cases, they will engage in gaslighting, manipulating others into doubting their own reality to maintain control and avoid confrontation. In relationships, narcissists can be incredibly damaging. The early stages of a relationship with a narcissist may feel exhilarating as they shower their partner with attention and affection in a process known as love bombing. However, as the relationship progresses, the narcissist's need for validation becomes insatiable. They may demand constant admiration and attention, becoming angry or distant when they do not receive it. The partner of a narcissist may feel emotionally drained, confused, and even guilty for not being able to meet their partner's high expectations. Over time, narcissistic behaviors erode the emotional and psychological well-being of the people involved, leaving them feeling insignificant and unworthy. The emotional toll of being involved with a narcissist can be devastating. Narcissists often exploit their partner's vulnerabilities, using them to boost their own ego and maintain a sense of superiority. This can create a toxic environment where the victim is constantly second-guessing themselves, feeling worthless, or questioning their own reality. Narcissists have a tendency to use shame as a tool to control others, making their victims feel guilty for things they did not do or for simply having their own needs and desires. This manipulation can leave deep scars, leading to feelings of inadequacy, anxiety, and depression. The impact of narcissism extends beyond personal relationships. In the workplace, narcissistic individuals can create a hostile environment where their need for power and control undermines team dynamics and productivity. They may take credit for others' work, belittle colleagues, or engage in unethical behavior to maintain their position. Narcissists often have a grandiose sense of their own abilities and may lack the self-awareness necessary to understand how their actions affect others. Their inability to handle criticism or failure can create an environment of fear and intimidation where others feel unable to voice their opinions or contribute fully. Even within families, narcissism can wreak havoc. leading to strained relationships, emotional neglect, and a lack of support. Children raised by narcissistic parents may grow up feeling unloved, unimportant, or as if they are constantly walking on eggshells. Narcissistic parents may view their children as extensions of themselves rather than individuals with their own thoughts, emotions, and needs. This can lead to a lifetime of emotional struggles for the child, including difficulties with self-esteem, boundaries, and trust. The impact of narcissism is a deep and often hidden form of harm. The narcissist may never acknowledge the damage they cause, and those around them may struggle to understand why they feel so drained, confused, or emotionally beaten down. The most challenging part of dealing with narcissism is often recognizing it for what it is. Because narcissists are skilled at hiding their true nature, it can take years for someone to realize they have been manipulated or controlled. Even when they do, breaking free from the grip of narcissism is not easy. It requires understanding the dynamics of narcissistic behavior, recognizing one's own worth, and finding the strength to walk away from toxic relationships. God plays a profound and pivotal role in the exposure of narcissists, guiding his people through times of deception, manipulation, and abuse. He is not a passive observer of the struggles we face, rather, he is an active force in unveiling the truth and offering protection to those who may be unaware of the toxic influences around them. God's purpose in exposing narcissists goes beyond simply revealing their actions. It is a divine act of justice, love, and care. Through his wisdom, God ensures that the truth comes to light when it is most needed, allowing his children to break free from the chains of control and manipulation that narcissists often create. One of the most significant ways God works in the exposure of narcissism is by providing the discernment needed to see through the facades that narcissists build. Narcissists are often masters of deception, using charm, manipulation, and calculated actions to make themselves appear trustworthy and admirable. They can deceive even the most discerning individuals, especially in the early stages of a relationship. But God, in his infinite wisdom, equips his followers with the spiritual insight to see beyond the surface. He allows them to discern when something feels off, even when everything else seems perfect. This divine ability to discern the truth, especially when it's hidden behind a mask, is an essential tool in recognizing narcissistic behavior. God's role in exposure is not limited to simply revealing the truth to those affected. He also gives his people the strength to confront the truth, no matter how painful it may be. Sometimes the hardest part of dealing with a narcissist is acknowledging the reality of the situation. It's easy to be swept up in the illusion they create, to believe in their false promises, and to become emotionally invested in someone who does not truly care. But God doesn't leave his people to face this reality alone. He strengthens their resolve, helps them stand firm, and provides the emotional and spiritual resources needed to navigate the difficult decisions that come with recognizing and confronting a narcissist. He gives them the courage to accept that what they have been experiencing is not love, not care, but manipulation and control. God's presence in this moment provides the assurance that the truth, while difficult, will ultimately lead to freedom. At the same time, God's role in exposing narcissists is also rooted in his desire to protect his children. Narcissists thrive on vulnerability, and they often prey on individuals who are kind, compassionate, and willing to give. God knows the hearts of his people, and he sees when they are being taken advantage of. His exposure of narcissists serves as a shield, warning his people of the dangers that lie ahead and offering them the chance to step away before they are further entangled. His protection is not just physical, but emotional and spiritual, as he works to keep his children from being drained of their energy, their self-worth, and their sense of peace. God doesn't want his people to suffer under the weight of narcissistic abuse, and he will not allow them to remain in that darkness forever. In exposing the narcissist, God is making a way for his people to break free, heal, and find restoration. The act of exposure, however, is not solely for the benefit of the victim. It is also an act of divine justice. Narcissists, in their pursuit of self-interest, often harm others without regard for the pain they cause. They lie, manipulate, and abuse others in ways that go unnoticed by the wider world. But God sees all, and no injustice escapes his gaze. The exposure of a narcissist is a reminder that there is no hiding from God's truth. While narcissists may think they can control their image or hide their true selves, God reveals what is hidden in the darkness and brings it into the light. This is not for the purpose of punishment alone, but to bring about repentance, transformation, and healing. God's ultimate desire is for all to be redeemed, but in the process of exposure, he brings clarity and accountability. The narcissist may not always acknowledge their wrongdoings, but the exposure of their behavior allows others to see the truth and protect themselves from further harm. In many cases, the exposure of narcissistic behavior occurs not only through direct confrontation, but through divine circumstances. Sometimes it is through moments of hardship, betrayal, or confusion that God makes the truth clear. A relationship that once seemed full of promise may begin to unravel, and the signs of narcissistic behavior start to show. It is in these moments that God's hand is at work, guiding his people to recognize the truth and take action. His exposure is not always immediate, but it is always timely, arriving when his children are ready to face what they have been avoiding. God does not rush his people into this revelation. He prepares them, giving them the strength and clarity to handle the truth when it finally comes. His timing is never wrong. And in his perfect wisdom, he ensures that the exposure happens when his people are best equipped to deal with it. Through it all, God remains a constant source of hope. When narcissists are exposed, it can feel like the world has been turned upside down. The emotional aftermath of discovering the truth can leave a person feeling lost, broken, and uncertain of what to do next. But God is always there, providing healing and restoration. He is the source of comfort in the aftermath of exposure, helping his people to rebuild, reclaim their worth, and move forward with a renewed sense of purpose. God's role in exposing narcissists is not just about revealing the darkness, it is about ushering in the light, guiding his children towards a brighter future, free from the chains of manipulation and deceit. The moment when the mask comes off is one of revelation, a moment when the carefully constructed illusion falls apart, and the true nature of a narcissist is exposed for all to see. For so long, narcissists wear a facade, an outward persona that is charming, alluring, and seemingly perfect. They present themselves as the epitome of success, kindness, or love, depending on what serves their purpose at the time. This mask is their tool of survival, their way of gaining attention, admiration, and control over others. It allows them to manipulate, deceive, and maintain their power. But the reality beneath the surface is far different, and eventually the cracks in the mask begin to show. Narcissists are experts at creating a false reality, one in which they appear to be the hero, the savior, or the ideal partner. They are skilled at molding their image to fit the expectations of those around them, whether it's in personal relationships at work or in social circles. The narcissist knows exactly what to say, what to do, and how to behave to maintain the image of being superior, flawless, and worthy of adoration. This image is often based on manipulation, control, and the exploitation of others' emotions and vulnerabilities. They feed off admiration and attention, using others to bolster their fragile self-esteem. They may shower someone with love, praise, or gifts, only to later withdraw affection, belittle, or use that person for their own benefit. But the mask is only sustainable for so long before the truth begins to seep through. One of the most disturbing aspects of the narcissist mask is its ability to blind others to their true nature. Victims often become so entangled in the illusion that they fail to recognize the emotional, psychological, or even physical abuse that may be taking place. The narcissist's charm, their ability to create an image of perfection, is often so convincing that it becomes difficult to see the cracks in their behavior. But over time, small inconsistencies begin to emerge. Their words no longer align with their actions, their promises turn into empty gestures, and the sense of being chosen or special gradually fades. The narcissist's behavior becomes more erratic, manipulative, and controlling as they sense their grip on the situation slipping. It is in these moments that the mask begins to crack. The mask's fall is not always a sudden event. It is often a slow process, one that builds over time. As the narcissist's true colors emerge, they may lash out, become defensive, or double down on their tactics. They may attempt to gaslight others, manipulate their reality, or distort the truth to maintain their image. In some cases, they may even deny the existence of the mask entirely, insisting that the behavior they are showing is the real them, all while continuing to lie, deceive, and manipulate. The mask may not come off in the way that people expect, nor will it necessarily come off voluntarily. For many, the discovery of the narcissist's true nature can feel like a betrayal, a crushing blow to the trust they had placed in that person. The narcissist, in their desperation to maintain control, may try to keep the mask in place even as it becomes increasingly transparent to others. God's role in this process is significant. His intervention often comes at moments of clarity, when the victim has had enough or when the truth can no longer be ignored. God provides the strength, wisdom, and discernment needed to see through the mask and recognize the toxic behaviors that have been hidden beneath it. The moment the mask comes off is not just an emotional revelation, it is a spiritual one. It is God's way of shedding light on the darkness, revealing the lies, manipulation, and deceit that have been taking place. The narcissist's ability to deceive may be powerful, but it is no match for the truth that God brings to light. When the mask falls, it is as if the veil has been lifted, and what was once hidden in the shadows is now exposed for what it truly is. For the person who has been living under the narcissist's control, this moment of revelation can be both liberating and devastating. It is liberating because it provides the clarity and validation they need to recognize that they have been manipulated and mistreated. The truth gives them the permission to step away, to break free from the toxic hold that the narcissist has had over them. It is devastating because it can bring up feelings of shame, guilt, and disbelief. The victim may struggle with feelings of self-doubt, wondering how they could have missed the signs or why they allowed themselves to be deceived for so long. The narcissist's ability to manipulate and twist the truth often leaves victims questioning their own reality even after the mask falls. The fall of the mask also marks the beginning of a new chapter. Once the truth has been revealed, the victim is no longer under the narcissist's spell. The mask has been shattered, and they can now see things for what they truly are. The revelation may come with a sense of anger, betrayal, or heartbreak, but it also comes with the opportunity for healing. With God's guidance, the victim can begin to rebuild their life, reclaim their power, and heal from the emotional scars that have been inflicted. The narcissist, however, will often resist the exposure of their true self. They may try to regain control, using manipulation or guilt to pull their victim back into their web. But the more the mask slips, the more difficult it becomes for the narcissist to maintain their illusion. In the grander scheme of things, the exposure of the narcissist's true nature is an act of divine justice. God's light will always shine on what is hidden in darkness, no matter how tightly the narcissist tries to hold onto their facade. When the mask comes off, the narcissist can no longer operate with the same level of deception. It is a moment when the truth prevails and the manipulative games they play are no longer effective. For those who have been caught in the narcissist trap, it is a moment of liberation, a chance to break free, rebuild, and start anew. And for the narcissist, it is an opportunity for change, but whether they choose to embrace that change is entirely up to them. When a narcissist's true nature is exposed, it is not only a moment of revelation, but a powerful lesson in self-awareness, boundaries, and the importance of inner strength. The exposure serves as a wake-up call, urging those who have been manipulated to reflect on their past choices and recognize the red flags they may have missed. It is a painful but crucial process that provides the opportunity for growth, transformation, and healing. The lessons learned from the exposure of a narcissist are often difficult to swallow, but they are essential for protecting one's emotional and mental well-being in the future. One of the most important lessons from the exposure of narcissistic behavior is the value of trusting one's intuition. Narcissists often have an uncanny ability to make others doubt themselves, to question their perceptions, and to gaslight their reality. They excel at manipulating situations to make others feel like they are overreacting or being unreasonable. When the mask of the narcissist comes off, it becomes clear that many of the feelings of unease, confusion, or discomfort that were once dismissed were, in fact, valid. The exposure teaches that intuition is a powerful tool that should not be ignored. The subtle warning signs, whether it's an uncomfortable gut feeling or an internal voice saying that something isn't right, are often the first clues that something is wrong. Trusting these instincts is vital for safeguarding one's emotional and mental health. The lesson here is to never second-guess your intuition, especially when it tells you that something or someone is not aligned with your truth or values. Another valuable lesson from exposure is the importance of setting and maintaining strong personal boundaries. Narcissists are notorious for pushing boundaries and disregarding the needs and emotions of others. They manipulate situations to gain control, whether it's through emotional manipulation, guilt tripping, or taking advantage of a person's kindness. When the narcissist is exposed, those who have been affected by their behavior often realize that they allowed their boundaries to be crossed, sometimes without even recognizing it. They allow themselves to be drained, disrespected, and taken for granted because they didn't have the strength or awareness to enforce their limits. The exposure serves as a powerful reminder that boundaries are not only necessary but vital to one's well-being. It teaches that it is not selfish to say no or to protect one's time, energy, and emotional health. Strong boundaries are a form of self-respect and self-preservation, and they must be consistently maintained, especially when dealing with people who have no regard for others' needs. A crucial lesson that comes from the exposure of narcissism is the realization that self-worth must come from within, not from external validation. Narcissists often feed off the admiration and approval of others, using it to fuel their fragile self-esteem. They may shower their victims with affection, compliments, or praise in order to make them feel special, only to later withdraw that same affection when it no longer serves their purposes. For those who have been manipulated by narcissists, the exposure brings an important lesson about the dangers of relying too heavily on external sources for validation. The exposure forces individuals to look inward, to build their self-worth on a solid foundation that is not dependent on the approval of others. It teaches the value of self-love, self-respect, and the importance of knowing your worth regardless of how others may treat you. When narcissists no longer have the ability to control or manipulate your sense of self, it is a step toward liberation. Another significant lesson from the exposure of narcissism is the importance of forgiveness and letting go of the past. While it is crucial to recognize the harm caused by narcissists and to learn from the experience, it is also necessary to release the emotional hold that the situation may have on you. Holding on to anger, resentment, or a desire for revenge can prevent healing and growth. The exposure of the narcissist's true self is not just about seeing their faults, it is also about freeing yourself from the emotional weight they carry. Forgiveness does not mean excusing their behavior or condoning what they did. It means choosing to let go of the emotional baggage they left behind. By forgiving, you release the power that the narcissist had over you, and you reclaim control over your own healing journey. The exposure also serves as a reminder of the importance of surrounding oneself with healthy, supportive relationships. Narcissists often isolate their victims, making them feel as though they are the only ones who understand or care about them. They use manipulation tactics to turn others against the victim, or to keep them dependent on the narcissist for validation and emotional support. When the mask is removed and the narcissist's true character is revealed, it often highlights the absence of real, authentic support in the victim's life. The lesson here is that it is essential to surround yourself with people who genuinely care for you, who respect your boundaries, and who encourage your growth and well-being. Real relationships are built on mutual respect, trust, and understanding, and they should never make you feel small, insignificant, or unloved. After exposure, the victim may feel the need to rebuild their support network, choosing to invest in relationships that uplift and nurture them. The exposure of narcissistic behavior teaches the importance of reclaiming one's power and taking control of one's life. Narcissists work tirelessly to undermine the confidence and autonomy of those around them, often leaving them feeling powerless, insecure, or trapped. The moment the narcissist is exposed is a turning point, an opportunity to take back control of your narrative. It is a lesson in reclaiming your voice, your choices, and your freedom. The exposure highlights the strength and resilience that can emerge from a difficult situation. It is a chance to build a life that is aligned with your values, your desires, and your authentic self, free from the influence of toxic, manipulative people. By choosing to move forward, empowered and aware, you take the lessons learned from the exposure and use them as a foundation for growth, healing, and a brighter future. The lessons learned from the exposure of a narcissist may be painful, but they are also transformative. They serve as tools for self-growth, guiding individuals toward healthier relationships, stronger self-awareness, and a deeper sense of inner peace. They teach that the truth always has a way of coming to light, and when it does, it provides the opportunity for profound change and healing. Empowerment through exposure is a profound and transformative process that begins the moment the truth is revealed, shattering the illusion that a narcissist has so carefully crafted. For those who have been manipulated or controlled by a narcissist, exposure is not just about discovering the truth, it is about reclaiming power, regaining control over their lives, and breaking free from the toxic grip of someone who has distorted reality for their own gain. The act of revealing the narcissist's true nature serves as a powerful catalyst for healing and empowerment, offering a path toward personal growth, strength, and resilience. When the mask of the narcissist comes off, it often feels as though the victim's world is turned upside down. The person who was once adored, admired, and seemingly perfect is suddenly exposed for what they truly are: manipulative, self-serving, and often cruel. This exposure can be jarring and painful, especially for those who have spent years or even decades believing in the false persona the narcissist presented. But in this painful moment lies the opportunity for empowerment. Once the truth is revealed, the victim is no longer under the illusion of the narcissist's power. The mask has fallen, and what remains is the truth. This truth, no matter how painful, becomes the foundation for reclaiming one's life and self-worth. It is the first step toward freedom. The narcissist thrives on control, often isolating their victims from friends, family, and support systems, making them feel small, insignificant, and dependent. They use charm, manipulation, and emotional abuse to ensure their victims' reliance on them. This exposure breaks that hold, revealing the extent to which the narcissist has undermined the victim's sense of self. This revelation provides the clarity needed to see how much emotional energy, time, and life have been spent trying to meet the impossible demands of a person who never truly cared. Once the narcissist's manipulations are recognized, the victim is no longer tethered to the false narrative the narcissist created. This is where empowerment begins, with the realization that the victim can now make choices that are true to themselves, no longer dictated by the narcissist's demands or expectations. One of the most powerful aspects of empowerment through exposure is the ability to set boundaries. Narcissists are notorious for violating personal boundaries, whether they are emotional, physical, or psychological. They often test limits, disrespect personal space, or manipulate emotions to get what they want. When the mask comes off and the narcissist is exposed, the victim gains the clarity and strength to enforce boundaries that protect their well-being. For many, this is a monumental shift, going from someone who is constantly bending to the will of another to someone who recognizes the necessity of standing firm in their own needs. Empowerment comes from recognizing that it is not only acceptable but essential to say no when something is harmful, disrespectful, or manipulative. The exposure of the narcissist reveals the importance of valuing oneself enough to set healthy, non-negotiable limits. The process of empowerment through exposure also involves reclaiming one's sense of self-worth. Narcissists are adept at eroding the self-esteem of those around them, often making their victims feel inferior, unworthy, or unlovable. They do this subtly over time, using tactics such as gaslighting, belittling, or withdrawing affection to create doubt and insecurity. Once exposed, the victim has the chance to rediscover their intrinsic value. The false narrative that the narcissist constructed, one of inadequacy or dependence, is shattered, and the individual is free to build their sense of self-worth on their own terms, not on the approval or validation of another. Empowerment arises when a person fully grasps that their worth was never tied to the narcissist's approval. They can begin to rebuild their self-esteem, reclaim their confidence, and rediscover the strength that was hidden beneath years of manipulation. Exposure also opens the door to healing. The narcissist often keeps their victims in a state of emotional confusion where love and pain are intertwined. The emotional whiplash can leave the victim unsure of what is real, constantly seeking validation or approval from the narcissist while simultaneously enduring hurt. Exposure to the narcissist's true nature cuts through the fog, providing a sense of clarity that allows the victim to see the relationship for what it truly was: a toxic cycle of manipulation and control. With this newfound clarity comes the freedom to heal, to release the emotional weight that the narcissist has imposed, and to move forward without the constant pull of the past. Empowerment in this context means letting go of the emotional attachments to someone who was never worthy of that energy in the first place. As the narcissist's true face is revealed, the victim also gains the strength to break free from the cycle of abuse. Narcissists often keep their victims trapped in a cycle of highs and lows where moments of love and affection are followed by manipulation and emotional pain. The victim may feel powerless to leave, caught in a trap of dependency and fear. Exposure disrupts this cycle, offering the victim the chance to step out of the illusion and take control of their future. Empowerment is found in the ability to walk away, to cut ties, and to break free from a relationship that has only served to diminish one's spirit. Once the truth is known, the victim is no longer shackled by the narcissist's control, and they can begin to create a life that is theirs and theirs alone. Empowerment through exposure allows the victim to rediscover their own voice. Narcissists often silence their victims, either through intimidation, manipulation, or outright control. The victim may have been made to feel that their opinions, needs, and feelings were irrelevant or unimportant. Exposure to the narcissist's true nature gives the victim permission to speak up, to stand firm in their own truth, and to assert their needs and desires without fear of retribution. This newfound voice is a powerful tool for personal growth and self-expression, and it is a vital part of reclaiming one's power. In the grand scheme of life, empowerment through exposure is not only about breaking free from the narcissist's grip, it is about reclaiming one's life, rebuilding self-esteem, and moving forward with clarity and strength. The process is not easy, and the road to recovery may be long and painful. But once the narcissist's true nature is exposed, the victim is no longer under their influence. Empowerment is the ultimate victory, and it is born out of the painful but necessary exposure of truth. With God's guidance and inner strength, the person who has been manipulated can take back their power and create a life that is no longer defined by someone else's toxic influence. Boundaries are the invisible lines that define who we are, what we value, and how we allow others to treat us. They are essential for maintaining healthy relationships and ensuring our well-being. In the context of dealing with narcissism, boundaries become not just important, but absolutely necessary for survival and emotional health. Narcissists, by nature, are experts at pushing boundaries, testing limits, and trying to control the people around them for their own benefit. For anyone who has been in a relationship with a narcissist, setting and maintaining boundaries can feel like a constant battle. Yet, these boundaries are the key to reclaiming control and preserving one's sense of self. When dealing with a narcissist, one of the first things to understand is that they have no regard for personal boundaries. Narcissists see the world through a lens of self-interest, and everyone else exists to serve their needs, validate their ego, or meet their demands. This disregard for boundaries is a cornerstone of their manipulative behavior. They will push, stretch, and ultimately violate the boundaries of others, convincing them that their needs, wants, and feelings are secondary. The narcissist's sense of entitlement knows no bounds, and they will attempt to exploit any vulnerability or weakness in others to maintain their control. For someone who is caught in the web of a narcissist's manipulation, it can be difficult to recognize when a boundary is being crossed. Narcissists are particularly skilled at gaslighting, making others doubt their own perceptions and feelings. They can make you feel guilty for setting boundaries or make you believe that your needs are unreasonable. Over time, the victim may start to lose sight of their own sense of self, and boundaries may become increasingly blurred. What was once an unspoken line between what is acceptable and what is not slowly begins to fade as the narcissist erodes the victim's confidence and sense of self-worth. This is why the act of setting boundaries is such an important and empowering step in breaking free from the narcissist's grip. Boundaries give the individual a sense of control, a reminder that they are worthy of respect and dignity. It is through setting and enforcing boundaries that a person reclaims their power and refuses to allow the narcissist to dictate the terms of their life. For example, setting clear boundaries around time, space, and emotional needs can prevent the narcissist from exploiting those areas. Whether it's saying no to unreasonable demands, refusing to tolerate emotional manipulation, or limiting contact with the narcissist, each boundary set is a declaration of self-respect. The process of establishing boundaries may feel uncomfortable at first. A narcissist may push back, criticize, or even attempt to make the victim feel bad for asserting their rights. They may try to make the victim believe that boundaries are a form of rejection or that the person is being selfish. These tactics are common because narcissists are not accustomed to being held accountable. They have spent their lives manipulating others to get what they want, and they view boundaries as a direct challenge to their control. However, the importance of these boundaries cannot be overstated. Without them, a person can become trapped in a cycle of emotional abuse, manipulation, and self-doubt. Boundaries are the tool that helps break this cycle, providing a clear line between what is acceptable behavior and what is not. Setting boundaries also involves recognizing and accepting that the narcissist may not respect them. Narcissists do not respond well to being told no, and they often view any boundary as an attack on their authority. It is important for the person setting the boundary to understand that the narcissist may try to manipulate, guilt trip, or even punish them for asserting their needs. The narcissist may attempt to breach the boundary in subtle ways, such as testing limits or using charm and persuasion to wear the victim down. However, the victim must stay firm in their resolve, knowing that enforcing boundaries is an act of self-preservation. Each time a boundary is upheld, the individual strengthens their ability to protect themselves from further manipulation and emotional harm. The importance of boundaries extends beyond the individual's relationship with the narcissist. It also plays a crucial role in how the person views and relates to others. When someone has been in a relationship with a narcissist, their sense of personal boundaries may have been violated so many times that they struggle to trust themselves. They may question whether their feelings are valid or whether their needs are reasonable. Setting boundaries with the narcissist helps to rebuild trust in one's own judgment. It is a way of reestablishing